Outstanding, the ultimate accolade for teachers. We challenge secondary history teacher Esther Arnott to go from good to outstanding. A top inspector observes one lesson. 2 experts will fine-tune her practice and help improve her presentation. She also gets comments and advice from teachers across the country who've seen her lesson on the web. Esther then has 2 weeks to put all the advice into action before the inspector comes back for the final verdict.
Every single person on here says something different about the lesson. It's been really useful. On the other hand, it's kind of like, oh, it's quite kind of personal. It's in your space. It's in your kind of classroom, even though you don't even know this person.
I have here 2 balloons for you. Yeah. And what I like you is to put one underneath this arm, one underneath that arm. Yeah.
I can't touch my hands anymore.
You can't touch your hands. So I like you now just to say something using your hands just in front of your body. Yeah. Get your hands up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And over to you.
Okay, Year 7. Good morning.
Ah, different. Do it again. Yeah. Stretch it. And...
Okay, Year 7. Good morning.
Fantastic. So now, we just try now to take the balloons out. Mm-hmm. Now, create this big balloon now for the whole class. Okay. And I'd like you to get the attention by saying, okay, yeah.
Good morning, Year 7. How are you?
Yeah. Eye contact. Yeah. The last one. Once more. Really go around with your eyes everywhere. Your eyes collect the attention.
Good morning, Year 7. How are you today?
Thank you. My head after my talk with Michael is swimming in a really good way. I'm going to go back to my medium-term plans and begin to see where I can build in these inquiry-type questions that could hopefully get me onto a winning solution.
With her final observation just weeks away, Esther's back to the classroom to put all the advice into action and work towards raising her game.
I'm just going to show you something and you have to just watch it, okay? Well, what I've set up is a 3-week or a 6-lesson inquiry, and this inquiry is asking what can we find out from computer games about medieval warfare. Your task is to spot the objects that you've just been looking at in these pictures.
Made of metal.
I was really thrilled with how excited they were to be looking at the different computer games and seeing what history those games can teach them. Gauntlet, good man. What type of gauntlet is it?
Metal.
Are you sure? The way I've broken it down is to first of all start with the computer games, and then I get them to try and sort of nail it down a bit more about what are the elements of warfare we're seeing. Can you put the objects you've found into 3 groups?
You could study the time period, the weapons, the armour and the castles, then compare it to the game's information.
Wow, that is fantastic, Ricardo. You're going to study weapons, castles and armour and compare it to what we see in the game. My body language, initially I felt myself go woo, and then I really concentrated on trying to sort of keep my hands apart and be dancing with my hands. So, when we come on to test what you have learnt from these computer games about medieval history, the way I'm going to sort of assess your understanding is I'm going to get you to write letters to the people who designed the games. At the end, I sort of grabbed a few of them and said, so what do you think of writing a letter? You excited about writing a letter? Yeah, no? They were like, yeah, it's okay. And I'm really worried about that now because the whole point of the work I did with Michael Riley was looking at making sure the students are not only engaged by the inquiry, but that they are motivated by the end task.
In the 2 weeks since her observation, teachers all over the country and beyond have been watching Esther's observed lesson on the web and leaving their comments.
It's funny to see that lots of people have picked up on my body language, and there's been a little bit of a debate about that between different contributions as to whether it's distracting or whether it's not. And particularly important feedback is about the plenary. Plenary in my first lesson was rushed, as someone highlighted on the website. It wasn't necessarily done with enough time to allow true consolidation of learning, and I think that's a really crucial thing to work on, because if you don't consolidate learning, when they come back it's all gone. Now seeing sort of the quality of feedback on the website, I think this could be a really good forum to help me work out what to do in terms of the product of my inquiry. The children weren't so engaged by the idea of writing to the computer company. So what I could do is post on here and ask people for their advice. What I absolutely love about being a history teacher is that idea that you can open up that world of possibility. People who have tried things, people who have experimented, people who have, tried and failed, but you learn from that, and you can learn from the people of the past. Really useful web feedback from some people about how to assess, and that's what I'm putting out at the moment. I'm actually giving the students complete choice. On that piece of paper, you've got some options. It says at the top, put a tick next to the one you like the most. What you've got is a list of ways that I could be assessing you at the end of this unit.
Do we choose which one we want to do? Can we actually do it?
You will be, yeah. So I'm giving you the chance to choose how you are assessed completely. It's your choice. Podcast, magazine, movie, website. No, that's really interesting actually. I think probably the thing I'm most surprised by is that they're willing to put themselves out there, and as a result I think variety is the key, and this has shown me that the more variety you can build in where it's possible, especially at Key Stage 3, the better. Today we are going to study medieval armour. I'm not just going to show you some pictures of it and go, what do you think? Because that would be boring. I'm going to get you to make some. The really excellent thing so far from having an inquiry-based approach is the engagement. They are sort of on tenterhooks, ready and waiting, and I've got students coming up to me with computer games saying, I looked at this again when I was at home last night. That involvement is fantastic.
Hello, Michael Riley.
Hello Michael, it's Esther here, how are you?
Esther talks through her lesson plan before tomorrow's second observation.
One of my big worries, if you like, is having too much of a focus on the game aspect of building a castle, rather than getting them to understand how this teaches them about castles changing over time.
I think there is a danger of that, and I think it'll be really important at the beginning of the lesson to make it really clear why they're doing this. And then again at the plenary, you really tie this in to the overall inquiry, which is interpretations focused. The important thing is for pupils to realise that they're studying these games as an interpretation of history.
Okay, thank you so much. This has been really helpful.
Good luck with it all, and I hope it goes well.
I actually think that I won't get an outstanding, because I've almost had to take 2 steps back in order to move forwards.
It's the day of Esther's final observation. Claire Gillies is back, and it's crunch time.
We've been studying this question: what can we learn from computer games about medieval history?
With all that expert advice and weeks of practice behind her, can Esther make it from good to outstanding?
Okay, so today we're actually going to investigate the final little piece of the puzzle, and that is castles. What can we learn from computer games about castles? So without further ado, let's look at the real history of castles. In your pairs, you are going to become master castle builders. Okay, first set of instructions. The year is 1066. William the Conqueror has just won the Battle of Hastings to become King of England. But in many parts of England, the people don't want him there, so he decides to build a castle. But he says it must be built really quickly, and he's only got wood and earth or soil to do it. You've got 1.5 minutes, work together, design your castle, master builders, off you go.
Can I do it? And over here we do the lines again like that. Like that.
Could you hold your boards up so I can see your designs, please? This one at the back, can you all look at that one for a second? Can you see how they've really done exactly what William said? But times are changing, builders. It's now 1081. Your castles are being burnt to the ground, but now you've got stone.
Can I do the rocks around it?
Since we've been learning about medieval warfare, I think the lessons have been more different because we're doing more practical work and it's more fun and you learn more by doing it.
Next step, it's 11:26 now. Some English people, dun dun dun, have worked out that they can make your stone castle collapse. Oh dear.
What have we got in mind? Well, so we have stone here, and we put 2 bricks with like heavy ones. So you add more.
Put your hand up if you added something like a wall or a moat, like some water. Dearie me, you're pretty good. Maybe you won't get your heads chopped off. Well done.
I did learn a lot because I didn't know the dates that the castles were being used and created.
Thumbs up if it's true, thumbs down if it's false. Number 1, all castles in history are made of wood. False, super duper. Wooden castles had to be replaced by stone. True, well done. There was only one type of castle design ever. False, well done. But here is the real challenge. The computer games we've looked at were set in 1191. Were round towers invented then? No. Were multiple walls around the castles invented then? So these computer games are not necessarily teaching you the real history. And you're going to explain this by writing some sentences which will ultimately help you in your final assessment, okay? Why do computer games maybe get things wrong? What is the purpose of a game?
Some people don't want to learn about history, they just want to play the game for fun.
Yes, spot on. We can learn history from so many different sources, and if you're going to be super historians, you need to compare them, okay? So remember that.
So has all Esther's hard work paid off?
Esther, thank you very much for letting me come to that Year 7 lesson, and I enjoyed it a great deal.
Good.
And if I stand back and reflect on the fact that this was Year 7 and what did they go out at the end of the lesson having learned, I think they certainly got it. So I think the learning was outstanding, so we can say that your teaching was outstanding. And I'll now give you a lovely long list of the things that I felt made that happen. If you remember last time when they were in groups, some of the groups definitely weren't so keen and didn't get on so well, but this time everybody most of the time was really giving thought and joining in. So let's highlight some of the real strengths. The good reflection at the beginning of the lesson, back to, you know, this is what we've been doing and where we're going. We had some good pace generated by the sort of lovely, you know, if you're not quick, you might get your head chopped off. That adds a touch of authentic, I'm sure, history there. Everybody wrote quite a lot.
Yes.
Related to their ability level. The lovely idea at the end that we were super historians, they're always comparing. Certainly they got that. So there was absolutely a wealth of, you know, things that they got out of it, that they mastered during it. And they're going to go on, I hope, to be sort of brilliant historians.
I hope so.
And thank you very much for letting me share that enjoyable lesson.
No, thank you so much for your feedback. It's been incredibly useful. When she said there was outstanding learning going on, and therefore there must have been outstanding teaching, I actually couldn't believe it. Really kind of uplifted, because I'm realising that I don't need the shackles of 25 different resources. See what they come up with, and that's what, as much as it's scary, it's kind of empowering and uplifting as well, because it's them that I've got to lead forwards, and that's exciting.